So I look a little bit better than I did earlier today. This is going to be a reading of the Anlian Manifesto, which is really just the first part of the book. So it's the Anlian Arguments book. That's the book that I'm reading today. It's not re- it's not really written that that's the title, I think it's just sort of I think it's just sort of, you know, written about. So let's see, share screen. Here's the cover. As you see, there's the little Stardust logo. Oh crap, I don't know how to censor it. I'm sure it's fine. It was the guy I originally sent it to. Okay. Return this journal to Daniel Parks, 200 Barnes Street, apartment 5I. Darn it, I doxed myself too. But I don't know how to edit that out, so let's just keep it. This book is for the purpose of the future nation of Anlia and all agreements necessary to found it. This book is for Book 1, Prologue. This book is for anyone who has a camp parable. A camp parable is a pattern of behavior that gets you kicked out of every social group you encounter. Some will find their niche running forever in folk song glory. Some will find the end of the camp parable and end up alone in a boat with nowhere to go and no future. Some, guilty of offenses this society takes more seriously, will find themselves in some sub-society, such as prison or a mental institution. There are two solutions to this that I have. One will never work completely and must be done by everyone individually, and one, in theory, will work completely and must be done in a different setting entirely. I have the problem. I have had a camp parable my whole life. It really went into effect when I was 11. At every summer camp, I would have a meltdown due to my autism, and some moments, and some momenting thing get kicked. Oh yeah, and some momentary thing and get kicked out. My faculties would fill up with emotion, like compartments in a sinking Titanic. Talking is flooded. Freezing is flooded too. That just leaves fight or flight. I would try to run away and walk home, but the counselors would chase after me and tackle me. That leaves only fight. I would kick and bite to get free. For that, I would be kicked out. That was close enough to what I wanted. I wouldn't want to go back to the camp with my meltdowns coloring the air. I had the rest of the week to do my own projects at home. My grandpa gave my parents $13,000 a year so that I could be booked at any day camp or booked at a day camp each of the 12 weeks of summer. I theorized even this early on how it's slowed down. Wait, how to slow down the camp parable. It all revolved around expectations. If my expectations were low, the camp would meet my expectations and I would get through the week. If my expectations were high, they would be flouted and I would have a meltdown right away. My rules were that I couldn't go to the same camp twice and that my mom would find all of my camps for me. If I went back to a camp I liked, my expectations would be too high. In that case, they would be flouted and I would quickly have a meltdown. If I was motivated enough to find the camp on my own, my expectations would have to be too high. And then here's a infographic. I found all the social groups following the camp. I found all social groups followed the camp parable. I had meltdowns at after schools and even schools. I began to appreciate the ones that kicked me out. The YMCA after school would just put me in their internal detention when I had a meltdown, and I would get more miserable as the year went on. My mom started to put me in camps that made especially or in camps made especially for autistic kids. They saw meltdowns as a normal part of the disorder and dealt with them kindly. I still preferred being kicked out, as I had the idea the process would settle, would send even would select ever better camps. Though I usually didn't get kicked out of schools, I did get suspended in 11th grade. It was the year I designed my best solution to the camp parable, a floating civilization made up of millions of camps called sects with wildly different laws. I apologize for the sex pun, but I was 17 and it was an acronym for social encompassing cities or social environment capsules. The one law that was constant across the country was that anyone could leave any sec at any time. I used my passion for designing technology to draw the plans. And here you have the current version of the pin and the cap. So the cap, so the pin collects ions from the water. The ions are attached to plates, which are separated by, or which are ionized and used to draw specific specific elements to specific ends of the or to specific points along the thing. It's called chromatography. It's a real thing. And then the cap would use repeating patterns on several different levels to etch out a design out of those plates and print them onto the substrate. This would be used for food. The PIM was a bubble of nanobots that was that used the same system of it used the same system of locating, or the same system of patterns to control its motion, and it would merge with other PIMs and create sex. The ARS, well, I think it's going to be written down. And here you can see two PIMs merging into a sec, a PIM using ionic motion through the water, a sec, a sector encompassing city made up of several social environment capsules where the secs are tiled together like a hexagon pattern, like actual bubbles. While I was suspended, I made a movie about this, as well as an autobiography to show on my 18th birthday. I also wrote a script about the near future now. I saw myself riding a bus and living off my $13,000 a year. 2 years later, I tried patenting the first step to creating my utopia. My attempt was crushed when my mom refused to connect me to any lawyers. I still needed someone to sign me up for things because of the camp parable. She claimed she didn't understand the science, but I didn't think that she had to. I had a meltdown in my parents' home and went to the mental hospital and a residential treatment center for 3 months. It was there that my inventions began to emulate the psychology I was expected to It was there that my inventions began to emulate the psychology I was expected to, or I was exposed to. That's right. Yeah. Chapter 3, internal solution. My main approach was to know my camp parable and block it at every step. I would create physical barriers, come up with alternative steps, and sometimes skip ahead of a bad outcome. These parables will vary, so I'll spare you the details of mine. What I want you to know is where it goes. Camps can be your family, your relationships, your play, your work, your religion, your psychologist. Meta camps are the very categories of your family, your work, your relationships, your play, your work, your religion, and your psychologist. When consequences of a behavioral pattern because or when the consequences of a behavior pattern became too harsh in a metacamp, I would leave it all together. My people I know, many people I know are out of the at least 3. If you leave them all, you'll just be alone in a boat, or in this case, an apartment with no future. That's where I am today. And it shows all of the metacamps erased except for psychology. Chapter 4, the external solution. I called my utopia Anlia because it means bubble or on the sea in Anli or in Angali. Angali is a language I invented at the time, 11th grade. The sects are made of personal infrastructure modules or PIMs. These mobile boat-like pieces contain all you need to survive indefinitely alone. They as a rule can form a sect with no additional infrastructure. Any number of pins can form together into a sect without compromising its structure, and any pin can leave the sect in any time without compromising its structure. When PIMs are alone for a long period of time between sects, they need a food source. That's where the kaleidoscopic atomic printer comes in. It uses patterns on scales down to the angstrom. I think it says angstrom. Angstrom to carve out enzymes and to produce food and electronics from any design you own. Once you download a design, you can keep printing it and eating it for the rest of your life. In order to regulate what can and can't be printed, where the Stardust online store will only allow you to see items legal in your sect or country. To solve the problem of police, we have the automated restraint suit. The ARS uses simple AI to prevent crime without violence or the danger of a strong AI uprising. It has plates on the limbs and sensors on the hands. So simple AI is different than strong AI. Strong AI is like human level. Simple AI is like computers or is like a website. It has plates on the limbs and sensors on the hands and feet, as well as the joints. When the sensors detect I'll just say illegal, even though it's not obvious. It says violent. A violent act by noticing a hand approaching a body at high speed. The plates lock together, freezing the perpetrator. Exactly what constitutes one of these crimes is up to the founder of the sect, who sets the laws. They can decide whether a victim is able to unfreeze the perp or the perp is automatically ejected from the sect. Anyone can design a sect, but they have to do it through the Stardust store. Individuals can also make rules for what types of sects they can be sent to. The sects the PIM send them to will have to have laws that match their own. The sects would branch off from the centers at the coasts of real nations. The centers make laws for the citizens and that the citizens can't remove until they reach a specific age. This prevents, among other things, children from being sent to the sects pedophiles have been banished to for their crimes. Children are prohibited from being born citizens of a sect. All children come from the centers. Anlia does not believe in punishment, just in organizing people by what they think should be legal. All opinions are considered equally valid. If you commit a crime in a sect, it adds a law to your Anlia that you can't remove. This is called a break. This law will automatically keep you out of all sex with the same law that you broke. Sometimes attempting the crime and being stopped by the ARS is enough to give you a break. Breaks expire at different rates depending on your age and what law you broke. If you break a law in a sec that doesn't have that law, it doesn't count as a break. If I were 5, aftermath. If I were to have a meltdown in Anlia, I would be able to get away before I got violent. If I didn't, I would be sent to a sec with all the same laws as the one I broke, or with all the same laws minus the one I broke. If I didn't approve of the thing I did being done to me, I would just go to an ARS sec, and nobody would be physically able to commit the crime. If you want to be able to do things to people that they cannot do to you, you will not be accommodated, but you can choose between the options available. Here are the options available. This is banishment, non-banishment, ARS, non-ARS. Banishing and ARS is a safe, or actually, non-banishing and ARS is a safe sec. Oh, wait, no, non-banishing and ARS is a holding sec. It's miss. Sorry, I think my organization of this is different than the typical one that I use now. It says non-ARS and banishing is a test sec. You can, that is the default, and it's testing to see if you'll break the law. If you want to be protected, you can go to a safe sec, which is ARS and banishing. So if anyone commits the crime, they will be stopped and they will also be banished. If you do commit the crime, you go to a penal sec, which is non-ARS and non-banishing. Non-banishing secs are also the secs that you go to if you are banished. The only secs you can go to if you are banished. The penal sec is great if you truly disagree with the law, but if you don't disagree with the law, you can go to a holding sec where you can be frozen if you commit the crime, but you will not be banished, and you are allowed to stay there no matter who you are. If you're inclined to commit crimes, this should lead you to secs with fewer and fewer laws. Eventually, you'll be in a sec with no laws. You can still opt for the automated restraint suit, and you may go off and create your own laws. Essentially, this replaced metacamps with diatopias, with levels based on the number of laws broken. The equation for the number of secs on any level is a combination. Yes, that mathematical formula. So that's essentially the number of laws times that -1 times that -1 until it gets to the number of laws that are missing from the that are missing from that level of the diatopia, divided by the number of terms in that factorial. So it's like, so let's say you have 5,000 laws, and you've broken 3. There are the number of secs on that level of the diatopia is equal to 5,000 times 4,999 times 4,998 divided by 3 divided by 2 divided by 1. But the 1 doesn't matter. N is the number of laws broken. T is the number of laws in the center. It branches out and comes back at the sec with no laws. There are diatopias that collide at these secs. And you may come back up to any center if you haven't broken its laws. So the cool thing about this is it's actually a hypercube. This is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is a 5-dimensional hypercube. No, this is a 4-dimensional hypercube. And this is a 3-dimensional hypercube. It's just on an angle. I'm gonna sneeze. We're trying to get the Stardust store. Chapter 6, Epilogue. We are trying to get the Stardust store online in 2020. You can upload parts to the initiative. So we do have a version of that. It's called heloc.com, but it's incomplete. It's not finished. Chris abandoned the project. You can upload parts to the initiatives, upload your own initiatives too. Get stars for whatever you upload once people start printing and spend them on whatever you want. You can get any number of things as long as they're rated lower than your product. You can pick which product that is. It can be a product you designed part of or a product you bought, but everybody starts with 1 star. Book 2, Pixel Fractometry. I've already done this on the channel, but I will go through it. This textbook is for pixel fractometry for the kaleidoscopic atomic printer. Below is the KAP. Because the KAP is made up of uniform cells, the cells must be used as pixels for the larger image. We now use each copy of the image as a pixel of the larger image. The larger image tells what pixels to use and which to block out, and we move up another level. This gradually decreases the amount of storage used on, or this greatly decreases the amount of storage used on the computer, allowing a 1 kilogram piece of beef to be stored in 16 gigabytes instead of 6.02 times 10 to the 26 pixels. The KAP uses 1 method to store written code and 1 method to store printable code. The moderators translate between the two, so nothing is printable before it is authorized in your sec or country. Chapter 2, Codons. Figure A shows 2 codons of the creator's code. 1 codon yeah, that's accurate. Because my when I uploaded the class wasn't accurate. Figure A shows 2 codons of the creator's code. 1 codons, other codons can be assigned to R, G, B, and C. The C codon is flipped upside down. Take note that it is flipped both horizontally and vertically, not mirrored. The triangle is used because it translates it well into other tessellation spaces. Observe. This is a triangle being translated into a hexagonal base. So basically there are two codons in that fill a triangle on this level. There's this codon here and this codon here. And then basically you have this codon here, which is A, B, or A, actually, it's A, B, all right, A, B. So instead of RGBC, it's A, Let's go back and look at RGBC. RGBC, A, and then this one is BBBA. So then you have these 2 codons. You have these 2 codons, A, or actually this is A. Hold on, I messed up. I think it's messed up. It's supposed to be a B. And then they just go into it themselves. Yeah, I messed up. That's supposed to, one of those is supposed to be a B. So then this is A, B. So, okay. Rectangular. This is slightly different. See, the two codons are this line and the blank. And then so you have the line, and the blank actually has something on the bottom. So this line goes. So this is BAAB. Or actually I said sorry, that's A. So it's ABBA. ABBA. And then you can see that all of these codons are the same. So that just goes into AAAA. These arrows are used to show what components are being used. A loop shows that the components of a component are the same as itself. So there's the loops, there's the loop. One of these should be a B. Okay. Chapter 3, irregular. In a monodimensional pixel fractometry problem, you simply find the least common multiple of the tessellation and the base. So this is one dimensional. So you've got A, B, C, and you're putting it into one. Then you have to take or actually you have A, B, C, and you're putting it into A, B. So first is A, B, second is B, C, second is C, A, third is B, C, and then it repeats. So then you can just take these and call them A, B, and C and put them back into the same pattern. And you can keep doing that and it'll always come out to your see, because you're left with the same thing. You can just do the same thing again. So AB equals A, CA equals B, BC equals C. You have the same thing again. You can scale this up any number of times. This can be used as a material for your KAP print. Well, at least it could if this system were at least it could if the system were using rectangles, but it's not. This is just to help you understand the basics. Let's see if we can do that in 2 dimensions. This is then a regular hexagon. See how the triangle base overflows off the sides. So let's see. So essentially, let's say this is a hexagon. It's C and F, and the line is drawn through the middle of A and B, and again A and B, because see, these are identical, they overlap. See how the triangle base overflows off the sides. The triangles loop to the other side. Let's make a larger one. This should also follow the tessellation. So let's say, so now we've made this out of RGBCs. Now we define each codon as the same codon as in the smaller tessellation, and we have it. So this is the first one of these, and then this is the second one, and then this is the third, and then this is the fourth. I think there's an error here. Actually, I think this is the, sorry. So this is, A, B, C, D, E, F. 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 So now we've defined A, B, C, D, and E, F as these codons, C with which are all combinations of A, B, C, D, E, and F. And now we can just put that back into its cell like we did with this one. What happens when the television is an irrational, or television? What happens when the tessellation is an irrational factor of the base? It would pose an issue if we only had 2 dimensions to work with. Luckily, we can rotate the print head into the 3rd dimension and get any square root found in nature. It's simply a matter of the Pythagorean theorem. Of course, it's not as simple as just launching straight down. So we need 3D pixel fractometry. The 3D codon has 2 levels, A and B. Each level is a full 2D codon, RGBC. Each layer on the smallest level is an atom thick, and this means it is not a constant thickness, but overall it should come down to 1 angstrom or 10 to the minus 10 meters. A cube breaks down into 4 triangles when you face it on the corner to the camera, or when you face one corner to the camera. After writing the post I'm copying this from, I learned that this was known in material science. I learned that this was known in material science. Okay, so this is the levels. Say this is A, B, C, D, F, G, E, F, G, H. 1st level, 2nd level, 3rd level, 4th level. And let's see. A, B, B, C, C, D, D, F, F, G, G, E, E, H, H. There's a name for this in material science because I went to material science college, but I don't remember it. Printed tops and bottoms. Okay. Pointed tops and bottoms. When you have a tessellation with pointed tops and bottoms, it's good to think of it as a 3D hexagonal. So there's a so there's an example. See, there's a there's alternating levels of these hexagons and these hexagons. It has 2 changing states and 2 stationary states, which can all be encoded as layers. Observe the pattern of your source material. They often alternate between two simpler 2D tessellations. Fun fact, a dodecahedron is actually one of these of a square. The tetrahedron is just one of these without the stationary states. Chapter 3, coding. I think I put the wrong chapter before. The KAP itself is a ball, and pixel fractimetry. Chapter 3, coding. The KAP itself is a ball. It is encoded as an octahedron of triangular codons. These codons are made of cells which expand and contract. The expanded cells inflate it to its round shape. Above, you see the expansion and contraction functions in their before and after states. So there's that. And all of the, and this came out of this. And you see there are these triangles here, here, and here, 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 and here. When a simulated item is not edible, it is made by inflating the cap rather than printing. This saves energy as the printer takes 6 15-foot solar dishes just to make daily food for the owner of the pin. Now I recalculated this later in the book. When the simulated item is outside the pin, it should be a hologram. Pin with holographic objects at different distances. A hologram projects light out at all angles, as if by an object out of reach. Holograms in a pin originate as a point along the bubble, and then laser impulses spread it out from there until the object appears far. They can also be copied from a light-filled camera at any distance. This is where the RGBC comes from, as the holographic cells have red projector, a blue projector, a green projector, and a camera. And those spread light in all directions. And that's wrong. The C should be here. Here's the code before for the regular functions of the KAP. B should be here, C should be here. If you can name 2, name 1 equals RGBC. Name 2 equals AB. So AB. You can name your codons whatever you want and set RGBC or AB to whatever names you want. By that I mean write the names of the codons you're using as source in place of RGBC, A, and B. The lowest level should have atomic numbers as RGB and C instead of codons. Name 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These are the parts, see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. These are the parts of the folding algorithm, or of the folding algorithm. Use them with the same name as one of the flat codons. So you put the same name as one of the flat codons in here. Before you can approve of food under the initiative to be, it is moderating. Before you can approve a food under any initiative to be in you, it doesn't say in, that's on another page. Used by any sec that uses that initiative, you must test, before you can approve a food under an initiative to be used by any sec that uses that initiative, you must test it for poisons and copyright infringement. These are luckily very similar tests. Up to the size of the poison, scan for a codon of it in any position. Now do an edge test. Scan for it on the edges of one level up, then another level up. Make sure to ignore the middle codons that have already been scanned, or we'd be here on absurdly long time. There are a lot of duplicates in a Stardust print that reduces the workload of your computer. That reduces the workload if you compute it in the right way. Book 3, Anlia. You probably will never speak Anlia, but it is going to be the language of Anlia. Anlia, originally known as Anlia, originally known as Angali, will be spoken by computers. Whatever you say to an Anlian from anywhere in the world will be translated into Anlia, transmitted or stored as translated or stored, then translated into their language. Anlia is a language made of lines that build pictures of what you're saying. These lines can be pronounced by putting your tongue in the shape of each one and reading down. Anlia is in the shape of a pin floating on a wave. It is pronounced ang and lia. Ang, anglicized Anlia. Most artificial languages take inspiration from many existing languages. Since the languages often lead to arguments over who gets to learn the least, Anlia has an almost entirely original vocabulary. For language to be learned, it has to be simple, but Anlia is supposed to be a midway for computers to parse. So it needs to encode every possible feature. I often speak a simplified version, which I will teach to you here. Another thing about Anlia is that its tone is recorded when you talk. It's stored in the Anlia file and sung out the other end. This allows it to translate song and emphasis. If the tongues, so I went against this and said that Anlia would be tonal, and the tone would indicate the grammar. If the tongue touches the roof of your mouth, it makes these sounds. Learn the front and middle and learn N or learn L sounds, L or N in the front, ng in the middle, and g in the back. L, ng, g. The shape of the tongue determines what vowel it makes. A, e, o, u, wait no, o, e, u, a, e. Basically, the middle vowels are a and eh. And if it's a curve in the middle, it's a. If it's an angle in the middle, it's eh. If it's back and a curve, it's eh. If it's back and a point, it's e. If it's large O, it's o. If it's a small o, it's u. And this is and I and just for just to complicate things a little bit more. Grammar. Subject comes before object. The verb goes below the subject. Adjectives go below nouns. At the end of a sentence, there's a K sound or a glottal stop. It could be either one O as an arrow pointing away. All right. Sorry, it could be either one. So a K or a glottal stop here. Subject of implied verb to implied object of implied adjective. O, arrows. O is an arrow pointing away. It is an arrow pointing. E is an arrow pointing back in your throat. They can mean to and from, you and me. At the end of a word, on lie, E means from. At the end of the word Anlia, e means from. Sometimes a word will come between a subject and an object. Helper verbs, to be verbs, and conjunctions can all fill that role. Sometimes a word will come between a subject and an object. Helper verbs, to be verbs, and conjunctions can all fill that role. Oh, sorry. I already read that. Blurriness. Some of these words are glaire, in, o, to, e, from, engang, out, o, change to oko, plus, e, minus, o, and, o, divided by, and glank times. So those are mathematical operators as well. Other sounds for loan words include A, B, C, D, E. Wait, no. B, S, D, P, S, T. And that should have a line under it. P, Z, T, M, N. Th, V, G, K, L, R, Sh, J. Sh, J. So that's J, but it could T, sh is ch, so it's like a ch, and d, j is j, so it's like a j. For reference, ch is ch, j, t, sh, j is j, and x is x. Anytime an Anlia symbol appears inside an O, it's pronounced immediately before or after the O. Some common Anlia notes. Anlia are Anlia, person, Anlia, Anlia, Uglang, person, Lang, animal, Ango, brain, E, I, O, you, Wa, universe, world, Hach, thing, Hilch, computer, Whalg, him, Olilo, cat, Ngolg, food. I changed all of those. Compound words, dog, Langro, cat, Langkir. God, holidays, Olanglog, God, day, plural. So dog is lang ro. Ro is the sound a dog makes in Anlia, and kir is the sound a cat makes in Anlia, and lang means animal. Some verbs too. Hey. Actually, I think it just says some verbs. Some verbs. Hey, run. O, go. E, come. Ra, eat. That's now rock, which is written the same way as kir. Test sentence. Ihe langro glech Anlia. I walk the dog in Anlia. The time when tenses. The time when something happens or happens, or it's time when something happened or happens, is said at the beginning of the sentence by an age. By default, this is the age of the writer, but it can be the age of other people too. And here's a list of ages. 3, lo. 4, lele. 5, laug. 6 to 8, loco. 8 to 10, lele coco or leleco. 10 to 12, lalco. 12 to 16, lococo. 16 to 20, lele coco. 20 to 24, loud coco. 24 to 32, loha. 32 to 40, leleha. 40 to 48, lalgha. 48 to 64, lokoha. 64 to 80, lelekoha. 80 to 96, lalkoha. You can also use o or e for after the current time and before. My dog died when I was 6. So my dog died. See, that's a skull. His skull means death. My 6 dog of mine died. Another Anlia feature is the use of mathematical style parentheses of a subject-object pair. It is itself the subject of a parentheses if a subject-object pair. Okay, sorry. Another Anlia feature is the use of mathematical style parentheses if a subject-object pair is itself the subject of a verb. You can put it in parentheses and put the verb below it if 2 whole sentences are the subject object of an in. Put them both in parentheses. I walk my dog in Anlia. Ihe langro I. Wait, no. Ug ihe langro I il. Glech Anlia. A computer sees Anlia as a moving line in a screen. The higher it is, the lower the pitch. He, I think that's actually backwards. The computer also uses a very specific order for words with placeholders in between. It will be very similar to the English adjective order. If the question mark is actually pronounced and it makes the sound sil. Book 4, Molecular Engineering. Carbon has 4, now this is me talking actual science. Carbon has 4 bonds. One of these bonds could be filled with a free electron, or there could be a double bond. If there is no double bond, it takes the tetrahedral sp3 shape. If there is one double bond, it takes the flat sp2 shape, and it conducts electricity. A wet free electron also conducts electricity. We see here a sheet of carbon with a charge building up under it. The carbons are bonded at the top to oxygen. The oxygen is bonded to something. When the charge passes into an oxygen, it will release its something and rocket it away. This is used in the plates of the ARS to freeze people, and in the bowels of the KAP. It is also used to move the cells of the KAP along. They will move in a circular pattern. They fold up and travel to the printer, unfolding a few times to be imprinted by stencils before releasing their load onto the substrate. Then it is folded back up and back onto the back to the chromatograph they go. A negative charge is on one end, a positive on the other. Between them is a layer with holes. It creates a rainbow of ions attached to each attached to cells. Each layer becomes a single element collected from the printer, and seawater are collected from the printer and seawater. The layers then slide back, collate along the way to the printer. While they sit in the chromatography chamber, their capacitors recharge, and they're ready to fire again. The KAP runs at very low temperatures. What keeps it so cold is the one-way heat sink invented by me in 11th grade. It has cones out of graphite embedded in insulating material. An impulse coming from the printer hits the smallest sheet of graphene, which can hit a larger sheet of graphene, allowing it to move out of the larger end of the cone. If a particle hits the large end of the cone, the large sheet of graphene will bounce off the cone and the impulse will be reflected. So let's see. Just imagine that moving and hitting the large end of the cone. Ref. Heat is the motion of particles. This material is put around the middle of the KAP. There the heat is trapped and will be released after the print is done. Opening the pocket releases the heat. This is done automatically by the cap's motors. For the motors, there is another sheet of carbon on the bonds of the cells. It has a fluorine on one side and hydrogen on the other. A negative charge will collect on the fluorine and cause that side to repel itself, bending it in. This is called piezoelectricity. How to use the cap. Create an account on Hilo. You will need proof of citizenship in your home country and any licenses you may have to own certain things, such as a firearm license. Order a KAP to your address. It should arrive in 4 to 6 weeks. Standard. Create an account on Hilo. You will need proof of citizenship. Oh, yeah. Plug in your cap. Open the app and sync with the cap. Press the sync button on the cap and the app at the same time. Or press the sync button on the cap and the app at the same time. How to download a print. Sculpt your cap into the shape you desire to find. Scroll through the prints until you find the one that you want and tap to print. Printing will automatically download it permanently to your cap. This should cause the cap should glow yellow while printing, then green when done. You can now peel back the outer layers to reveal your print. Close it and it will glow red as it collects ions. When it is ready to print again, it will glow blue. How to upload to the Stardust store. Log into your Hilo account. Search for parts on the initiatives and remember their names. Write your cap code, upload to an initiative. See if it shows up, and when you try to print, it may take 3 months. Or see if it shows up when you try to print. It may take 3 months. Your prints may be bigger than a simple molecule or cellular tissue. It helps to be able to sculpt the shapes you want to make on the macro scale. Open the Hilo app. Select the paint option. The KAP should come. Could something O to a point? Select the material on the app and paint it onto the cap with your touch. Push extra hard to eat away or carve your design. Subtract or submit to an initiative. How to record large area. How to create a large area. Download the recording. Download the recording sphere. Originally called the Omnisphere, but I changed it while I was writing this. It's a sphere large enough to fit a person inside. Get in the sphere. You should be able to slip through the wall. Walk through the area you want to record. Upload it to Hilo. We use an initiative like anything else. How to upload a cell. Box the cell into a regular shape. Freeze the cell. Take an electron microscope image of the cell. Shave off 1 atom thick layer of the cell. Convert the image to a KP file with yet to be written software. Repeat from one step until the cell is completely scanned. Make a robot for this. Set the upload to the materials section of the food initiative for someone to code into a material and others to paint into food. Go to any participating, how to build a PIM. Go to any participating center. In a center, you will find the Stardust items on showcase from around the world. Get into one of the PIMs around the edge. There is no door. When you pass through the membrane will form around you like an amoeba's vacuole around a bacterium, forming the ARS. Put your hands in this position. The lens should form between them. Use the touch screen to select your next course of action. How to enter a sec. You should be automatically sent to a sec. When you reach it, there will be a wall between your PIM and the sec that looks something like this. There are the laws that differentiate the sec from your Anlia. So this is the part where I got gave away something a little bit I gave away something a little bit deep in my ideology that's kind of reflects negatively on me if you aren't indoctrinated into the ideology. So let's go through all these. Actually, Chris couldn't tell what it was, but I ended up saying it to him. So it says stop, go. So you press on this to not enter the sec, you press on this to enter the sec, or you press on this to leave the sec, press on this to enter the sec. Stardustarian, that means that you're only allowed to eat food from the Stardust printer. Rape state, that means that it is a penal sec for rape, meaning that people can meaning that there is no sex crime listed in the sex laws, and that is because people who go there are either, well, actually, people who go there are criminals who've been convicted of sex crime, and this is the only place they're allowed to go. However, it's still optional because you could go to a holding sec. The option is put there because I strongly believe that for any crime, there are people who would prefer it would be off the books, even whether it was to them or someone else. Slurs prevented with ARS. That's although I'd probably call this a holding sec for racism. That's when that's when you have to wear a membrane in front of your mouth, and if you say a slur, it kind of like turns into it. Uses the same technology that Anlia uses all over the place. It turns into Scotch tape basically, and you can't, and it bleeps you out. Eating sec, which means you're allowed to eat here. Probably the least controversial. But that doesn't make it a penal sec for food, because a penal sec for food would be a sec that did not follow FDA restrictions and you could eat anything. These are the laws that differentiate the sec from your Anlia. So if you have, so if you're used to going to a sec that's a penal sec for a specific thing, that won't show up here. That will not show up. That will not show up here. But if this is a place you're allowed to go, if one of these is a penal sec you're allowed to go to, but that you haven't specifically requested you stay in the area of, or you haven't normally, or it's different than the place that you came from, like if you came from a center, these things are going to show up and you're going to have to pay attention to them because sometimes they are, sometimes they mean a lot. You can push stop to go somewhere else, go to go in, or any of the laws to learn about more of them, or to learn more about them. Your Anlia starts out as the laws of the center, but it will get to know you better as time goes on. If you press go, the wall will break and you will be in the sec. If you press stop, your PIM will begin the journey to the next sec. Bring up your lens when you want to leave. Your exit option should pop up somewhere on the first page. You can also be forced out of your next break. No, wait, you can also be forced out on your next break. This means if you break a law, your PIM will form around you on the ground, and the ground under you will be, or ground under your feet will be scooted towards the edge until you are out and banned. Chapter 1, Data, or Book 6, Stardust Math. Chapter 1, Data. The basic unit of the KAP print looks like this, with 8 carbon atoms arranged in a triangle shape. The carbon atoms have a diameter of 100 picometers, giving the unit of volume of 3.52 times 10 to the negative 29 meters cubed. The volume of the whole printer, which is a sphere with the diameter of 0.1 meters or 1 decimeter, is 4/3 pi times 0.1 to the third, or 4/3 pi times 0.001, being 3.52 times 10 to the negative, or actually over 3.52 times 10 to the negative 29, being 1.19. I know you're not paying attention to this. I can't even pay attention to this right now. 1.19 times 10 to the 26. Take that long base. So that means that there's that number of pieces. Take that long base of 8 that finds, take the log base 8 of that to find the minimum number of codons. It's 29. Each codon would be just a small amount of text. So the print worded would probably be a measurement of kilobytes. Part 2, cells. A cell has about 100 trillion atoms in it. Previous calculations are based on it being 1 billion, as it takes 16 bits to differentiate between 200 elements. The computer could use. So the amount of data needed to goes from 16 gigabytes to 1.6 petabytes. Why is it always the end? I am confident that storage technology can keep up, however. The KAP may help. The cap uses the ionization of oxygen, to shoot off and deposit atoms on the substrate. Let's take the number of atoms from before, 1.19 times 10 to the 26 times 8. Multiply it by the ionization energy for oxygen, 1313.9 kilowatts per second. First have to divide by the number of molecules in a mole. Then then multiply to get 2.0778 times 10 to the 6 kilowatts per second. Or kilowatts times seconds. Convert into kilowatt hours to get 577. That's still a lot, but 15-foot solar heat dishes produces 23 kilowatts times 12 hours. 0.6 of them produce times 23 kilowatts times 12 hours. 6 of them produce 1,656 kilowatt hours a day. That's 1,060 square feet compared to the 4,000 needed to support a human farming crop. I calculated this carbon at first. I calculated this with carbon at first, and you need 2 to 3 times the printer's capacity each day to feed yourself. So keep 6 dishes. Proper dish use for a loner. So you've got the 6 dishes around your PIM. And notes. Contact facebook.com/ChachMaria if you would like to participate in Anlia or the CAP. Bonus chapter, book 7. How to create a sec. Go to the sec creator on your lens. Pick a group of laws and initiatives. You should have your Anlia to start with, and a search bar to the right. Your breaks cannot be removed, and neither can restrictions created by your center. Either way expire in time. Oh wait, sorry, what? Your breaks cannot be removed, and neither can restrictions created by your center. Either way expire in time. I think I was trying to say either way, or yeah, either may expire in time. Once a sec is created, a set of laws must be judged, and the laws identified with other people's Anlias before you can enter. How to create a law. Most laws are simple ARS laws. If you create them by punching in Coke, and you can create them by punching in code when blank part of the body approaches part of the body at speed, freeze until condition. Victim unfreeze, auto eject, timeout, conditions. Yeah. And these parts of the bodies these parts of the body can be denoted by these numbers. To make an initiative, the code looks like this. Scan for KAP code, outputs a concentration. Ban if scan for KAP code, 0.01. Does not allow concentration over 0.01 of poison in any print, or of a poison in any print. Grant if sharp. Does not allow sharp points in any print. Book 8, How We Will Create Anlia. Chapter 1, the KAP. In a university campus somewhere in the USA, you will find a scanning electron microscope. You need somebody with clearance to use it to prototype the KAP. Once one tile of the KAP is produced, we can BOD the new prints out. Or yeah, we can fold the new prints out, printing them with the parts that exist. Eventually, we'll have a large flat sheet that we can fold into an octahedron. Make sure to continue to keep the parts connected to a signal the whole time. Put in a signal to bring everything to a curve, creating a ball, and tuck the computer underneath. For future KAPs, print them using the existing KAPs. That's probably, I thought this was a much better diagram when I wrote it, when I drew it. Okay, yeah, it's printing, then there's double, and then they fold out. Chapter 2, the Hiloch store. Please make these websites according to the plans in this book. I don't know much about computers, but I won't tell you so I won't tell you how to do it. Suggestion: make the servers only input-output specific. Kinds or maybe only input out and output specific kinds of data so that they can't be hacked. Make the store first before the KAP. Chapter 3, in between years. While people upload food to the Helix store, the store will be useless for food due to the high energy cost. The KAP will be used mainly for manufacturing computers, and everyday items will fall to its morphing capabilities. This will remain the case until the PIM is invented. Without enough food to support alone in a PIM, the PIM just isn't available. The PIM just isn't viable. There needs to be a global organization. Chapter 4, the PIM. There needs to be a global organization to prevent war. Then it will be automatically safe for a system of micronations such as Anlia. Else Anlia may develop its own weapons or operate officially in a prison, or operate officially as a prison. It is a place for criminals as well as runaway children and inventors. The law breaks down. If Anlia can't get clearance of a country to build a center, it may distribute underground KAPs to the citizens of any country and allow them to print PIMs from these. The PIMs are not prohibitively complicated. It is what must exist first on Hilo. What pushes them so far into that pushes them so far in the future. How to create an initiative with placeholders. Initiatives are the Anlian versions of placeholders. They open as a place on the Hilach for some, or they open of a placeholder. They open up as space on Hilach for someone else to put their KAP code or part of your project. Simply add notes to the first part of your KAP code, mentioning the name of and describing your part, and also put the name of the non-existent part in your code where you would normally put its name if it existed. You can attach source images of the model taken with an electron microscope as well in your text editor's preferred method. Once the print is approved, it will be converted to a format actually printable on by the KAP and can't be. So I think I'm referring to a specific kind of initiative where hold on, I'll finish my sentence. Once the print is approved, it will be converted to a format actually printable by the KAP and can't be edited. Okay, so I think I'm referring to a specific kind of initiative where you design a product, but you leave a placeholder for something for a thing on a smaller level, a material, I guess. So somebody can add that later. Originally, book 10, Datons. Originally, Anlia wasn't meant to run on automated initiatives. There were people called Datons who decided and how laws were approved and for what initiatives. They were elected in one of two ways. One, all the citizens of Anlia and foreign Stardustarians in the world filled out a specially tailored political policy questionnaire. People who selected that they wanted to be the Datons scored decently on the portion dedicated to ability with the technology and had the most majority opinions would become Datons. Once the Datons were elected, they could use automated tests, but there would be a human element to vetting the sex and caps. They would then be taken out of office and a new election would happen every 4 years, owing to the presidential elections in the United States. The other method depends on technology that won't exist for another 80 years or 2100. The brains of Anlians would be scanned upon death, probably closer to 2200, and would be born 2200. Datons would be born, everyone's brain would be scanned constantly. The patterns would be compared to the uploaded brains, and the most common ideas would be compiled into digitized Daton brains. The Daton brain would be complicated to fill the commits. They would be given access to the internet, or they'd be given access to the internet and a brain to computer interface for everything they might find there. When they left office, they would be given a cap printed, or they'd be given cap printed bodies and a human name that they create themselves. They could leave of their own volition, have their term expire, or be impeached by a group of overseers on the internet. They probably would have an incentive to not leave early on as duplicates. They would be far too unoriginal to invent in Anlia. But with experience with raw on people's inventions, they could diverge from their programming. This plan turned out to be worth scrapping for a number of reasons. One, it requires Anlia start with too many people. Two, the idea of a world run by data constructions of people is too reminiscent of popular sci-fi to most people, the majority of which is dystopian. Three, in a fictional book, The Time Circle Capsule, this scenario played out with Anlia going gradually insane until it invaded the US. This was because the information compiled into Datons came from the brains of Datons of previous years. It is much the way a human goes insane if they only talk to themselves. This seal for real this time. This book contains all the agreements needed to be found and live in the country of Anlia by Daton Risk. February 2020 to August 2020. Stars. When you first get to the HeLook app, your rating will be 1 star. This means you can only, you know what? It does mention this earlier on. No, I'll do it. Be 1 star. This means you can only download a products rated 1 star. Once you make an upload, it will be rated by its users. You can select this product to be the product your rating is based off of. Now you can download anything with that rating or less. The rating will always be between 1 and 5 stars to mimic the ideal 1,000 to 5,000 a month, a scale constant survival and increasing happiness. A scale with constant survival and increasing happiness. You can also make your product something you bought that way. If the rating goes up, you won't lose it. You can play this somewhat like the stock market. If your design is a part of several designs by different people, you may pick any of those to be your product. If you don't want to participate in the pseudo-capitalism, share your product privately. You can easily get a star rating, or you can easily get a 5-star rating from a loved one. This system is to take full advantage of the way computerized distribution can make cost do product independent. What? This system is to take full advantage of the way computerized distribution can make cost to product independent. One of the can make cost to product independent of number of produced. This is why the numbers of people can work on some. This is why vast numbers of people can work on some products, and others can be made by one person. The price is only dependent on quality, and salary is only dependent on quality. This is the book that I have written. And it's fair. Okay. I underestimated how good it was. I've been reading manifestos, and that's, oh my God, my voice is destroyed. Bye.